Hey, hey. Testing. Okay. I think I'm good here. Uh, okay. So I haven't seen this video yet. I just know it starts around here. Yeah. And they're just gonna be talking for a bit.
For a while now,
We can just
but
kind of
this is
listen.
the first Civ
I
game
got
I've
the
been able
last
to work
time.
on, so I'm very
The
excited.
last time I did this, I didn't have Twitch chat included, and I got a lot of criticism for that. So I'll make sure that I have Twitch chat in this video. Um, but okay.
Excited about that, as we are very close to having everybody be able to play. And I've mostly been working on pacing and progression type things up until now, and in the future I'll be
I need a pivot.
helping to work on a lot of the free updates and new things that are coming down the pipe.
And just in case anyone doesn't really understand what pacing and progression means, but we threw some really nasty problems Tim's way with this design. We had the game broken up into chapters, or 3 ages, and trying to make it so that the empires sort of reached a certain power at the end of the age, so they could do everything they needed to finish off that age, but then they came into the next age at an appropriate power level, so they were either not too like slingshotted ahead of the other civs, but they were also had some good recognition for what they'd accomplished in the previous age. That was a really tricky problem. So
speed it up, and then,
Tim helped us out a
when
ton.
I'm sleeping.
We had a whole group of designers who were working
Game
on
will
this
be
type
for
of problems.
casuals. War will
We're
suck.
really happy with where that is.
Hope
going
not.
into
Okay, so
I
what's
remember
interesting? He's like, we're gonna slingshot.
QA team, unless we were
So like, if you're too far ahead, you'll get punished.
Yes. And such, so.
Yeah, so that's a kind of cross-disciplinary team where we get a bunch of designers, we get some AI engineers to make sure that the AI is keeping up with it, and the input from the QA and
AI
like,
engineers.
tracking and telemetry kind of data that we get is invaluable.
I don't know about that.
All right, so Ed, why don't you go ahead and let us know about all the cool stuff we got going on today for the live stream?
So this live stream is a little bit different than our previous 3. The previous 3 were really
I like this guy,
focusing on
Ed
ages
Beach
and
guy.
how ages work and what the gameplay
He
is
clearly
in those
like
ages.
cares.
This time we're again looking at a new part of the game, but it's the very, very end. We are looking at
I
how you
really
win a
doubt
victory,
AI can
what
have
it means to
movie
finish off a Civ 7 game, but we're going to add a twist to it. Most people are going to probably experience these victories for the first time in a single-player game, but this is in a multiplayer game. So Tim and I will be playing head-to-head, and we'll be looking at what's Tim's path to victory, what's my path to victory. They'll be a little bit different from each other, so we'll really be able to give people a big comfort level with what victories are all about and how they work. However, once we're done that multiplayer showdown, which we have no idea how it's going to come out because we've practiced the beginning of it, but we have no idea what the final result's going to be. So that's going to be very interesting. But after that, we have a whole segment where we want to talk about what our community can expect after a game launches, what we're going to be doing for post-release support, how, like Tim was talking about,
I've heard there's a lot of backlash on this.
Organize and get our team in place
that
to
like within
get all
2
those
months there's going to be a DLC,
but we also have additional content
which is going to cost like $70 or something.
And we want to run through all that and how that's going to work with everybody.
I guess we'll see.
Awesome, very exciting stuff. Now, before we go ahead and start looking at setting up a multiplayer game, I want to give a shout out to the collector's edition of the game. This is an awesome option for fans who are really into merchandise and collectors.
I want this. I didn't buy this one, but I was so tempted. But like, it's like $250 or some shit.
A multiplayer game.
So this is a segment
so egregious. Like the clock doesn't work. If the clock worked, I dead ass would have bought it.
Even though there have been a lot of creators who are
I would have bought it if the clock worked.
I've seen a lot of that information by now. There hasn't been a lot of focus on what are your options with a multiplayer game. How can you set it up? Can I play just one age, and how would that work? And what can I turn on? What can I turn off? So we wanted to run through that, and so that's what we're going to do over the next couple minutes, just to give people an idea of how you would get into a game like the one Tim and I are going to be playing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the
one thing. The background music looks sounds so good.
Avatar, my player, I'm called Gilgadude here, which is kind of fun. But just as a reminder to players that we have added a whole meta progression system, and there's lots of things that you can unlock as you're playing the game, and you can show that off to some of the other people you're in
Battle
with
Pass
through this customize feature. So customize will allow you to select a badge based on things that you've unlocked through playing the games. That goes in with your banner, which are one of these cool backdrops. And you can continue to customize it just to make sure that when you show up for a multiplayer game, you kind of get to add a little bit of your own flair to it. So we're not going to specifically set it up and worry about all that right now, but I just wanted to point out to people that that's one of the cool new features that they'll see with Civ 7 multiplayer.
Very cool. Excited to see all the cards everybody gets to make.
So now let's go to the Create Games screen. This is how you set up any multiplayer game. It'll be familiar to people who played Civ 5 and Civ 6 multiplayer, but there are a few important changes. The number one change is that now you select an age as one of the primary things that you do setting up a game. And we'll make this look kind of like the way this game that Tim and I are going to be playing was set up. So I'll select modern here as the age that we're going to start in. That'll be an advanced start into modern, where you get a certain area of the map allocated to you. You get to place your cities. And we're going to start in like the way this game starts.
So there's
only
three ages.
A certain area of the map allocated to you. You get to place your cities as you like to place those cities, and you're off and running as soon as the game starts. The turn timer is again present with us, just like it has been in previous games. We recommend always setting that to keep your pace going. And you have options like you have in previous Civ titles for difficulty, game speed. We're going to be playing at quick speed today, which isn't the very fastest speed, that's online, but it is faster than a standard game goes on. And that's sort of our default for any kind of multiplayer games. It does enhance the speed of play compared to a regular game. It's very comfortable for multiplayer, but some people might want to go even faster with like an online speed.
I like the Civs. Everything they listed. Like I'm genuinely excited to play this game. I've never played a Civ game on release
because we just wanted for the live stream to simplify it down a little bit. So
especially like in the position I am now.
That you'll see once we get into the game.
So.
And then the final selections are sort of very specific to Civ 7.
You guys can hear this, right?
New. Yeah. So for instance, the mementos.
Is the sound good, by the way?
On or off. We're going to turn those off for our game. The crisis system that Tim was the sort of designer leading the charge on that. That was an important part of setting up our pacing at the end of an age and how this worked out. That can be turned off for multiplayer. If you are doing a single age multiplayer game, we actually do recommend probably turning it off. Usually you get enough mayhem from the other humans in your game that you don't need the crisis as well.
All right,
so
also based.
Exactly how we would set up a multiplayer game.
I love how there's seeds, by the way. Like, I think that's actually a really cool addition. I know they have them in 6, but they don't have them in 5.
A modern age-specific game is here in our stream today. So we are quite interested to see how the community adopts this new format for multiplayer and takes it and runs with it.
Very exciting. So before we actually hop into the game, because the game is going to be showing us some new content, we got a video for y'all to check out.
Die erste Bürgerpflicht ist, seinem Vater.
Frederick the Great was a complex figure who combined a sharp military mind with a deep appreciation for culture and philosophy. Which is why he arrives with 2 personas to capture this surprising dichotomy. Will you build your empire on cold hard logic, or embrace the refined tastes of a Renaissance man? As the oblique persona, Frederick gets a tactical head start with powerful army commanders.
Like, this makes sense, right? Like, this is such a good, like, way to showcase the history of it.
Frederick advances his cultural legacy through might, and becomes even mightier as his cultural patronage grows. Consider pairing Frederick with Prussia in the modern age to get big combat bonuses for being antisocial, because who needs friends anyway? Or choose a different path all your own. But whatever you build, remember to build something.
Dude, the people that are trashing the like aesthetic are so out of touch. Like, this aesthetic looks amazing.
All right, very cool. So our new leader, Frederick. So
Ed,
how about you tell me a little bit about why
America,
you selected Frederick as a leader for Civ 7?
So Frederick the Great is
modern
one of the
America
military
want.
strategists
What
of all time.
would you want?
He's been in Civilization before. But for Civ 5 and 6, we went for different directions. So we were, looking for leaders from Central Europe, like we always do. And this particular time, with our age system, we've set it up so we now are focused in on a lot of what's going on in the 19th century, Napoleonic Wars time period, and leading on into the World Wars. That's sort of the brackets for how the modern age is set up. And we decided that to represent Germany during that time period, we would go with a Prussia Civ, which would be sort of a unique opportunity. We've never had Prussia as a specific Civ in our game before. So once we decided that Prussia was going to be in, it sort of made sense that this was the time Frederick should make his comeback. He hasn't been around since Civ 4, but he's certainly a popular figure. He's, as you can see, he's got 2 personas, so there's also a cultural side to him as well as the military genius side to him. Yeah. So he worked really well with our persona system, and lo and behold, we decided, yep, we had to have Frederick.
Very cool. And yeah, you're going to be playing Frederick.
I feel like you
Prussia
need Frederick
in this game.
You want.
And so, do you have a little bit of a strategy on what you're going to be looking at?
Okay, so if we can look at the game that we have set up here, I'm on the northern end of our eastern landmass. I have only 2 cities at the moment.
Motherfucker, is he
some of these,
43 pop?
Towns are very big, and so they can easily be turned into cities at a nominal cost because they have such high populations. So I may be doing that here and there. So the first thing I do, especially in this situation where you and your QA staff have put together a really engaging situation, and we're trying to figure out
yeah,
how to
Pip,
push
I like
forward
that
in this
too.
game and how I'm going to defeat Tim
I like
here,
that too.
is I have to look at the 4 different legacy paths and figure out which one is going to be the most sensible way for me to try to get a victory in here. So we'll take a quick look over at where we are in age progress.
Because that way
we'll
it makes it so that each game has
unique
situations.
But the other paths,
if I know that Egypt's in the game, I might be less.
And if we go into the age ranking screen
inclined to the pyramids or something.
and look at specifically Railroad Tycoon points, we've earned 357 out of 500. Now, just to remind people how those are earned, you get a Railroad Tycoon point each turn for each resource that is slotted into one of your factories and is being sort of produced into a factory finished good. So if I go to my resource screen, I can count up how many resources I have in factories. I have in Berlin a tea factory and 3 tea resources there. In Dresden, I have a fish factory and 5 fish slotted there. But notice I have another fish I could move in there if I wanted to. And then I have a chocolate factory in Hamburg. So all in all, at the moment, I am earning 11 points per turn. I'm within about 15 turns or less of being able to get to victory here. Now, once that's not a victory as in the game is over. I am within 15 turns of unlocking a victory condition. And that's different in Civ 7 because you try to progress through the legacy path, and then there's
By the way, I haven't seen nearly as much about this. Most of this
to win the game. We have a dev diary coming out later today talking about victories, so people can read all about that, but we'll be explaining that in the stream here as we go. So the economic legacy path, when I finish that, my next step is to establish the World Bank. I have to get a great banker. He has to travel around to the different capital cities. We'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of that. But anyways, I think this is my strongest path. So basically, I just have to survive about 20 turns, and then I should be okay. But Tim's got some interesting ways he can win, and that's going to be a big challenge.
So awesome. Thank you very much, Ed. So now getting into Tim's gameplay. Tim, you're going to be playing Napoleon of France. So let's hear a little bit about that combo and what your strategy is going to be going into this.
Right. So I have Napoleon. I have the revolutionary persona, which is a nice combination of culture and military. And France as well is like a very strong culture civilization, but they have some very strong, unique militaristic bonuses like this Garde Impériale unique unit, which is both a melee unit and a ranged unit. So it's very strong to be able to do ranged attacks without taking reciprocal damage, and still being able to sort of fix bayonets and get stuck in if I need to, and not be very vulnerable. So they're a very flexible, very good military unit. And I have my unique quarter up here as well, which is giving me a lot of culture and happiness. So you might be thinking I'm going for a culture victory, but actually I'm going to take all of that culture and have this and slingshot it into a military ideology victory path.
Very cool.
Where you can go through this by conquering without a sort of cultural component to this, but if you use your culture to access your ideology and then attack your ideological opponents, you'll go up this much, much faster. So it's 3 points if I capture a settlement of someone with an opposing ideology. So I really only need 4 or 5 more settlements here of somebody who's opposing me to get to the end of this.
Wait, hold on.
That has
What's a settlement? Is that just a city? Pip, I don't know anything. So the only thing on Civ 7 I watched is that last video I reviewed. That's it.
Which will involve building the Manhattan Project and Operation Ivy ultimately, and therefore establishing that I have complete military dominance as the
settlements
sort of
feed resources into a city.
At that point, sort of mirroring.
Yeah,
the
apples.
United
That's
States
what I'm
in World War II. So to that end, I've got lots of military units over here. My ideology is fascism. I'm the only fascist in the world, so everybody kind of hates me, as they should. And but that gives me a lot of targets. And we've selected Jose here, the Jairism himself of Mexico, as my target. And so if I can take out a good chunk of his settlements here, that will get me on a nuclear trajectory.
Very cool. And now I believe there's even a little bit of history between Napoleon and Frederick. So
right. Yeah, this is a classic showdown. France, the French Empire and the Prussian Empire, the Franco-Prussian conflicts here. And I believe Napoleon even said at one point, that he never would have conquered Europe or wouldn't have made it as deep in if Frederick was still alive during his time. So I guess maybe we'll find out if that was true
we
or
can
not.
put that to the test.
Yep. So. It's going to be a great what-if moment from history reenacted right here.
Yeah, I think it is.
But Napoleon didn't have nukes, and hopefully I will. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah, cosmic.
So let's take a moment to
honestly, that's one of the things I didn't like about
K-Dog the Truth. Do you just play through a specific age, or are you able to play through an entire 3-age campaign in multiplayer?
So you can do either one. I think if you're just organizing games out on the internet, with not necessarily with your friends, it's going to be more likely to be just a single-age game that you'll set up and play through. But if you've got a friend group,
Tim gets it.
Play.
That's exactly what I figured it would be too, where it's a single-age kind of run-through.
Campaign. So you'll play through Antiquity. A save game will be created at the end of that, and then that can be loaded in and can be the start of your next session when you go into the exploration age. There have been some questions about who gets to choose their civilization in the next age first if you are doing one of those linked campaigns. And our answer to that is, every group's going to have their own preferences. Some groups might decide, whoever's in first place absolutely gets to pick whoever scored the most legacy points. Some people might want to help somebody catch up. Some people might want to stick by specific Civ Unlock rules that either their group has set up or that the game has. So we don't really dictate that. It's up to players to choose as they are in the lobby setting up to launch into the exploration game.
Very cool. Awesome. Also, shout out to I believe it was KD Magic for KN Magic 7 for the compliment on my hair. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the game a bit more here. So you are currently going fully engaged into the battle over here at Mexico. Tell us a little bit about the unit setup you got here.
Right, so I have my Guard Imperial. They're attacking these fortified settlements with their ranged attacks. It's not doing a ton of damage because of the fortifications. Ranged units attacking units that are in fortifications or which have dug in with fortifications are less effective. So I really need these siege units to break down these walls. But as you kind of see, this navigable river is really making a problem. It's actually sandwiched in between two navigable rivers, which is making it very difficult for me to approach by land. And it's something that, especially in the modern age, once these modern cities get rather large, you really need like a combined arms approach to attack these things. So I'm using my navy here to from offshore, and I especially have this fleet commander here, which has got this bombardment tree stacked full of great, especially the splash damage bonuses for attacking from the sea to land.
I like the way it looks.
I don't really have an air force set up here, but Jose does, so that's not great for me. I'm a little bit technologically behind everybody else, so that's kind of my Achilles heel here. If I could, I would really love to have some air units over here, but I don't. But over here, where I am going to be in much more of a defensive posture against a technologically superior Prussia, I really want to build out my air force as fast as I can, so I don't not at too big of a disadvantage.
Very cool, awesome. Now, Ed, how do you feel about what seems to be a good friend of yours getting invaded right now in that threat off of your southern border?
It's absolutely something that I need to pay a lot of attention to because, like Tim was pointing out, I think if he takes 5 settlements here, it's pretty much game over. He's been threatening to nuke me if he gets deep in the military legacy path. So basically, I feel like I'm at one of those carnival games where it's the dunking booth, and like I'm sitting perched on a chair precariously, and if Tim does well, I'm going in the water because I'm going to get nuked. So that's a little bit of an uncomfortable place to be, but hopefully I did just tweak my factories a little bit while Tim was talking about his military. Hopefully he wasn't paying attention to me admitting that. So I actually think I can maybe do a little bit better than 20 turns in terms of how long it's going to take me to finish the Railroad Tycoon path. I do have several squadron commanders that are filling up with my air units, and Prussia does have a unique Stuka air unit, which is a great ground attack aircraft, one of the new types of aircraft that we showed off in the modern live stream last time. So overall, I cautiously optimistic.
I agree.
Very cool.
I
agree.
While
talking about aircraft a little bit, and you were mentioning you might want some.
That was like one of the first things I
Jose
said
is really using that as an advantage.
first stream,
Show us how some of that aircraft combat's going to be able to work out or work against you.
Right, like you just saw Jose destroy one of my artillery pieces here that I really need to get these walls down with his air attacks, so that's not great for me. I'm building my biplanes over here as much as possible. The modern age fighter units are sort of sectioned out into fighter-style air units, ground attack air units, and siege air units, like these bombers. And they really are specialized in different roles. You can use them against other things, but these fighter air units are really good at fighting other air units. Ground attack units are good at attacking ground and sea units. And bombers are really what you want to use against cities. I'm not really looking to go on the offensive in the air over here against what are going to be definitely, and Prussia has a unique plane as well.
Pip, is this a dumb question, but
so
like,
I'm loading up on fighters, and
there's like a tech tree, right? Like, you're not going to cap off at biplanes. Like, you'll eventually get to like jet fighters
before he gets into his economic victory. So I'm on the clock there.
Yeah. So, and it sounds like there's a real rock paper scissors to air combat in Civ 7.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and go for another question. Garrett Kidd is asking about when setting up, when in a multiplayer game in your age transition and you select the new civs. We went into
Am I
that a little
crazy,
bit,
or is this thing
how,
like
who gets to
at
select
0
the civs
health
first, and how does that interact with the associated civs that you'll unlock?
So, like I was explaining, ultimately, if the community has one way that they like to do this and they want us to enforce it in the game, we're happy to go ahead and put those rules in the game. But we thought it was more sensible, especially we've always made it so that multiplayer communities can kind of develop their own ecosystem for like how they do balance patches to tweak the civs so that they're better set up for multiplayer. How they
I love. Dude, Firaxis does such a good job with this kind of stuff.
Civs, like if they're having a tournament, those kind of things get very specialized and are very curated by those different multiplayer communities. And we didn't want to over-specify that within our game. So for right now, it really is up to the group to decide what they want. Allows it to be picked, even if you're rolling from one age to another.
Very cool. So now getting back into the game, Ed, how's the economic
Gotcha. So that's why he was saying that it's important to
one full
have
turn,
both
so
a
it
navy.
hasn't progressed, tremendously, but I have slipped a few more factory resources in there. I was able to set it up so I have a full 6 fish in the Dresden factory, and I was able to add another factory in Cologne.
Ooh, nice orange factory.
Yes, which helps us in producing naval units, and that's something I'm probably going to start doing in Dresden.
With the chocolate factory, we actually got lucky enough to go see the chocolate museum in
Cologne.
Cologne, yeah, which was very, very cool.
Here are the chocolate factories in Hamburg, but yes, there is one in Cologne.
So that was very cool. And
part of our Gamescom trip last summer.
Ooh, so it's sounding a lot like Tim is winning the YouTube poll, 51% to 49.
Ooh, I like this.
So Tim, how do you feel about that?
I like this. I feel like I should be spotted some beneficial odds here, but I do need to protect my airfields here because I'm really not looking to go to war with that just at this moment when I don't have any nukes or anything. But you know, it's multiplayer. You can't do the same things you would do in single player. A human player is always going to be a much more unpredictable opponent. So he could certainly end up at war over here before we're really ready.
And Ed, do you think you're going to be able to prove the fan base wrong on that opinion?
Well, I've done so once in my first matchup with Carl, but the second matchup with Carl did not go particularly well. So, yeah, that 50-50 track record I have is probably reflected in the odds here. Tim is absolutely much stronger player of the game in general. He's constantly stressing our game and making sure that the AI is set up to handle players who can play at that Immortal or DoD level. I'm definitely a tier behind that, but I do feel like your setup in terms of giving me the heads up to sort of have the clock ticking towards the economic victory. I sort of do have the advantage going here in terms of a better setup, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I got the opportunity, shout out to our coworker in QA.
Yeah, why didn't they invite me, bro?
We put the save together, but we were both getting to kind of play head-to-head and get the advantage to get the game set up, and I got a really good one there for the econ. Let's just say you guys are lucky I'm not in this game, so that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I will say I'm not looking to take Ed head-on and invade deep into here because I know from his economic victory progress that he's got a really strong rail network, and that rail network has a lot of economic bonuses, but it has military bonuses too. He's going to be able to move his troops around very rapidly along that rail network.
Example of that is I have this Hussar in Berlin. I moved him one to the southeast. I can now do move by rail, and I can put him right up in the front lines where I want. Misclick there.
The Explorer.
Yeah, clicked on top of it.
Get in the front lines, Explorer.
Yeah, but so now, boom, he's teleported right there. I've actually brought an army forward. The best army commander I have is this army commander with 7 promotions.
Oh, very
He's
strong.
got the extra command radius. He's been through the assault tree. So wherever he is probably my sort of attack vector south. So hopefully Tim's not looking over at my screen to see exactly where he is, but it's right there. So
Sounds barrier right
yeah,
there.
exactly.
All right, we got a question from Juno Dude 456. Will players be able to play DLC civs and leaders if one player has them in the game, or if one player wouldn't own those?
I think they
the
do go
excellent
over
question.
it
And the
here.
answer is, if you own the DLC civs and leaders, they are selectable in the multiplayer setup for you. And so they can go into a game, even if you're playing against people who don't own those same civs and leaders. The other players that are jumping in the game that have not yet purchased those civs and leaders won't have them selectable, but they can play against them, see how they play, decide whether they like them, that kind of thing.
Very cool. Now, let's take a look at the next front over here. In
Like,
Mexico.
tell me this
How's that
doesn't
going?
look
Are the walls
so
beginning to
good.
come down?
It looks
slowly.
so
You
good.
know, navigable rivers, we've revealed them pretty early on, and people have seen that they're in the game. But it's hard to overstate.
Am
how
I
big
actually
impact
that
they
quiet,
make in so
Korea?
many
It
ways.
doesn't look like I
you know,
am.
This is a really tough nut to crack here between these two navigable rivers by land, because if I'm attacking from, well, embarked on this, it's an amphibious assault, and that's got some real penalties. Ooh, oh no. So I really need to try to get in here as quickly as possible. What I don't want to have happen, that can happen, especially in modern,
I mean, I just turned myself
some of these
up
larger
even
cities, is get
louder,
bogged
but
down
I
in
guess we'll
urban
see.
warfare and sort of a Stalingrad-esque situation. That can be tough. So I want to.
That's the thing,
some
Pip. Like,
powerful, naval ships there. You're able to
I
sail
feel
those
like
navigable
what
rivers
pisses me off a
and
little
is that
bit
able to help you out?
is so many
and they
people are
using
like,
that to my advantage. This fleet commander here.
oh, the game's
using,
probably gonna suck. We're just gonna stick with
coordinated
5.
order here to
I don't want to be playing the same game for the rest of my life.
and that'll cut off reinforcements from this direction as well.
Very cool.
I don't want to be playing the same game for the rest of my fucking life, guys. I want this game to be good so that we can move on.
The one thing I am speculating on is what I want to do with my 307 influence. I'm kind of past the point where we're playing nice here. I really want to spend that influence to support one of these war efforts. But am I going to be in a war soon? Yeah, I might want to save some of it for that. But the one thing I can do is I can send Jose Rizal some more support by spending influence towards that. And that will, right now, the overall sentiment in the world is that Napoleon has a little bit more of the popular support. But if I could throw my 121 influence into supporting Jose Rizal, that will even that out. And so the +1 combat bonus that Tim's been enjoying for the last couple turns will get wiped away.
So
now it means that there's less for me to spend on myself.
Oh,
But we'll have to deal with that.
that's such, dude. Okay,
Support wars from
that is such a good way to deal with teaming. I don't think everyone wants I really don't think that everyone wants the game to be great. I really don't. But did you see this? How, like, you can support or not support certain things, and that determines, like, their combat modifiers.
outside.
So if everyone hates something from happening, you can just give the guy negative combat modifiers.
military of gold, you can help support.
And
through-
there is a limit to only on those third-party wars. You can only once add a support level, so I couldn't do that again. But I might as well get that in there and get the first level of support for any war is always cheaper than later additions of more support because the cost escalates. So spend that's.
It's better than getting your units fucking smashed into. Like it probably feels a lot better than like. Yeah, I mean that would be very cringe. I mean, I guess it depends on like. Well, yeah. So Korea, I think that's the thing where it's like it costs some sort of currency. It costs some sort of currency to actually like do this. So you can't just like do it willy nilly.
That's a pretty modest spend to give Jose Rizal the boost he needs there combat-wise.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it already.
All right, so another question by Oleg. Will it be possible to turn on fast movement and fast combat for a multiplayer game?
So those are options that we're looking into. We're going to talk at the end of the stream here about some of the additional options that we're going to be prioritizing right after we release. So stay tuned. We will get into things like that later on in the stream.
Cool. A sneak peek for what's to come.
So I am at a point right now where I'm really feeling like I can't let Jose Rizal undertake the brunt of Tim's attack without doing something to support that. So the most obvious thing for me to do to support it is, since he and I are the only two communists in the game, he is my comrade.
Comrade Jose.
Yes, I think I might make him my comrade in arms and go ahead and
Are you get that's like more important than the
gameplay
almost.
What will happen is the game will immediately let that alliance take place, but then it's going to ask me, are you going to be a true ally and are you going to join the wars against Jose Rizal's opponents? So basically, an alliance with Jose Rizal right now is going to thrust me into a war with Tim. I'm talking about it very openly in front of it. Tim can hear all this, but he knew this was coming. This is how the whole stream was set up. We knew we needed to do this. You know, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to form an alliance. He accepts because we have a plus 90 relationship, so he's very happy with that. And then as soon as I go back out to the game, I get the prompt, an ally is at war. Are you going to support them or are you going to try to stay neutral? So I'm going to support this, and that's going to put Tim and I at war, which is going to lead to a little conflict right here on our home landmass.
Very cool. So big strats with the politics and war. So there's been a little bit of a sway in the poll. Tim's Tim's fans are sweating, and now you only have 25% support. Well, 75.
I feel like it should make it easier though, right? You just remove a lot of the
animation.
It's all the influence getting used.
Yeah.
So
I guess they want to
Tim, how do you
keep
feel
the
about this
aesthetic.
now? The threat.
I just feel like it's such
the
a fundamental
declaration of
thing
war
to
as the
keep
two comrades
pace.
are united.
Yeah, I feel like I need support. So from in-game and out. So we're gonna add some support to this war, put some pressure on his happiness, and give myself a little bit of a combat bonus. And let's see what these nascent air units that I've been building up can do. And fighters are not great at attacking land units, but they can.
Yeah. And these are the biplane fighter units
right,
you're mentioning.
Exactly. The fighter class of air units. But that's all I really got.
So the fighter units will just be good for when Ed tries to use his bombers and his Stuka.
Right.
And so do you think you'll be wanting to get a couple of the trench fighters or bombers in there, or just keep with the biplanes to keep his under?
At least for right now, I'm pretty afraid of those Stukas. My biplanes will automatically intercept any that try to attack within their intercept range. So I don't have to do anything other than just build biplanes and hold on.
I mean, that's good.
Although if
triplane
more
mechanics,
land units
I
start
hope they
coming in
change
here,
triplane
then I'll have a problem. Fortunately,
I don't know how they work in 6.
Paris. So we mentioned that as I take over settlements in the distant lands in Mexico, I'll advance this path. But that isn't all I have to do. I still have to build the Manhattan Project. So I need to keep a high production city somewhere in here and defend it long enough to get my nukes online. And Paris has quite a bit of production here, and it's pretty well defended. So we might have to do some sort of defense in depth here type of thing and hold on to Paris for as long as I can.
All right, and we got another question, one from K9GM3. Does diplomatic relationships apply between human players as the same they would with AI?
They do, and that's one of the cool things about our system is that we worked real hard to make sure that it was very symmetrical and there was no like AI works one way and humans work a different way. So for instance, if Tim and I had been playing this game for a long time and we had been very friendly and we'd send each other a lot of diplomatic endeavors so that we were like cooperating on research and exchanging food and gold and those types of things, we would have a very strong relationship. And to break that and to go to war would mean you'd have to declare a surprise war, which would cost you a lot of war support points, give automatic war support to the other side, would inflict war weariness on your people. And then some diplomatic options are easier to undertake or only available if you're friendly with somebody. So all those kind of gates still apply between human players as well.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Interesting.
So, all right, back to the heat of it. How is this invasion of Mexico City going?
Well, Jose offered peace, and I had to turn him down because he'd be willing to give me 1 or 2 settlements, but I think my path to victory is over here. I can't walk away with fewer than 3 or 4 cities here to get my points that I need, because I don't know that I'm going to be taking any Prussian cities anytime soon here.
Now, it does look like there's still Xerxes, and I believe you're the only fascist civ, so you may be able to still get some points from the Xerxes.
We love the leader
I don't have enough
day.
time to pivot.
30% production towards training military units. What the fuck? 3 combat strength? Is that a lot?
Quite that
20%
hard, but,
gold?
Here we can see the French unique ability showing up here where my celebration occurred. And normally you pick your government and you only have 2 options to choose from. But the French unique ability is you can choose any of the options.
20% science? What the fuck?
I could really use +3
Oh, it's a
strength
GA
right
replacement.
at this exact moment. So that's very convenient. And
Oh,
it gives me a
okay.
chance to reshuffle my policies here and get some of these.
I
specific
hated 6, but I
things
did
in
like
here,
the civic
this guy right
cards.
here, which is going to help me out
Conceptually.
quite a lot. So we're
I
gonna-
didn't like how
these
they
are peacetime policies.
allowed you
we
just
don't
to
need peacetime
completely
policies
change your
anymore.
entire strategy.
Yeah, it's
like,
time to bring
on
these
a fucking,
fascist policies in.
on
And
a
we can also see
dime.
that even though
Like,
it's an advanced start
it's-
game, I have
that seemed really
Spanish
silly.
and Egyptian policies because even in advanced start, it will generate sort of a historical heritage for your civ. So this particular version of France that I have right now sort of evolved out of Spain, which is interesting. And I'm going to use some of those Spanish policies actually to give me some extra strength as
So
well.
this is a really cool opportunity that we get in the later ages, where we can
4
see
combat
the
strength for
history
all
being
units
built
in
in layers.
distant
They're not
lands.
only on the map with unique quarters or improvements you
again,
might build,
I don't know
but even
how
the
big
traditions
that
from your
is.
previous civilizations
That
can
seems
carry
like a
forward into
lot.
this age, adding so many layers to the gameplay. That was one of my favorite things to be testing when these things were in development, and it's a really cool way to express the story you've been telling over the course of the game.
Yeah, I think we're really excited to see what people do with these sort of different crazy combinations very soon. Very, very soon. We'll see what everybody is able to come up with.
Yeah. Alrighty, going to another
How
question.
quickly
by
can they
Blue Wind.
break
Does
the
AI know
game?
how to use the war support system?
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yes. So expect them to be using that against you, and be prepared to get into some diplomatic battles as well as unit militaristic ones.
Yes, they will even support other people's wars as well if they really don't like you.
So they'll be
I mean,
supporting
look,
their
I
allies,
don't
even
see like
uh,
unit stacks.
support going against yours just because they don't
So
like you.
Yep.
that's good.
Very cool. All right, and this one by iBanker. How does text and civic research work in teams and multiplayer? Will one player receive a bonus when another team member
Combat
completes
strength
a
needs to
tech
be-
or a civic?
I mean, but if I get
So,
okay,
team in multiplayer.
4 combat strength is literally nothing to a GDR, but 4 combat strength to a swordsman is insane. That's
Is
kinda
something
why
that's
I'm
not in the
asking,
game
like,
right
I
now
don't know
because
how
it's being
good
worked on right now. It's one of the things we're going to talk about yet again. It's another tease for our talking about our roadmap to come at the end of the stream. We're not going to go into a lot of details on exactly how the team system is going to operate because it needs to be a little bit different in Civ 7 than it has in previous games. There are things like unique civic trees in Civ 7 that it used to be shared civic and tech resource. Well, like what happens when somebody has a unique civic tree and someone else doesn't. So we're working through how teams best fit into Civ 7, and as soon as that feature is ready to roll out, we'll be sharing a lot of information on it. Probably have a stream on it, those kind of things.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, and this one by Synth Icon Turtle. Will team mechanics change? But we just went over that, and so we'll have some more information about teams coming later. So, all right, it looks like you are starting to take the front in Mexico onto 3 different cities.
Yeah, I need to hurry up and get this ball moving before the Prussians arrive.
That was a very heavily promoted commander. That was cool to see.
Yeah, all my best commanders are way over here, which is, I guess, a very Napoleonic move here to send all your best units to distant lands.
Very cool. And
So
how is the
based.
Are you
defense
sending
of-
your commanders into exile? Like, I mean, I've heard of that St. Helena is a beautiful island in the South Atlantic Ocean. If your commanders want to go there, it's fine with me.
And so far, it
I might
seems.
vacation in Berlin. I don't know. We'll see.
Looks like you also have some chocolate of your own. Do you have any factories?
That kind of sounds cringe. So like the early game is going to be determined. My early game proficiency at war is determined by if I get iron spawns. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, 1 strength per node, but I'm. Okay, but let's say like, let's say Glossen's in the game and he gets fucking 8, and I have 1. Braxis hates the whole resource system. Well, Jungle, I'm saying mostly for early game. Like if we're dealing with like
Set up, just
I don't know.
producing your own resources.
I do have factories,
what
and they are
combat
giving
strength are
me some
these
benefits.
units?
Like
Let me
this
see.
cotton is giving me protection towards training land units, and I'm getting extra healing from my medicinal things here. So even though I'm very clearly focusing on a militaristic approach here, you really can't totally ignore the other.
this is 50 combat strength. I mean, even in that case, let's say you have 5 nodes. That's 10%. Okay. 4 total nodes on the whole map? Okay, never mind. That makes sense.
Parts, aspects of the game.
And don't tell Tim that I just moved a land ship on top of his cotton. So
I need that cotton.
We'll keep that a secret. So it doesn't pass.
That is cool, though.
target
I
for
actually do like this. I like how there's strategic resources that don't completely gut your game, right? If you pillage my cotton and I lose 5%, like production or whatever, like that's like annoying, but it's not game ending. If you pillage my aluminum and I don't have stealth anymore, I just lost the game. I mean, I understand that. Like,
Right,
I just like how there's a lot of these little
Jofo.
things.
Does age progress and when crises start in single player depend on you or the AI players?
I'll let Tim answer this question since he set a lot of the system up exactly.
Yeah, it's entirely based off of the age progress. So there are certain age progress thresholds. This is a modern age, so we don't have a crisis in this to show you. But at specific age progress thresholds, the crisis will start. And every player's advancement along these milestone paths communally increase. The first player to get to each of these milestones will communally increase the shared age progress.
So the age progress is something that is just for uniform across the entire game, and then actions that any player does will like put it into that pool.
And that will make the crisis trigger across the world. But some of the crises are very interesting. Like Tim and I worked together on the plague crisis, and the plague crisis does this whole evaluation across the world of
So
what
Jungle,
city is
this
sort of
does seem
the
kind of
ripest
cringe.
target for plague to hit. It like has
It
the most
seems
traders coming
like
into
you
it.
can.
It might
You
have,
need to take
crazy
like
overpopulation
5
and
different
things.
forts to take a city.
So the plague system does evaluations. That's where plague starts to break out. Plague will spread, especially along those trade routes. So it's a whole simulation that happens within the same kind of system that we use for floods and storms and volcanic eruptions. So it's very cool. And yeah, you'll have to think about like sort of how your empire is set up. Whether like port cities can be very very vulnerable to plague, and even if you have an empire over,
please
across an ocean,
tell me how this works. So this is the city.
that plague. Can,
What are these? Urban districts. And you said you need to take all of the districts to claim the city. Is that right? He has to kill those to get the city?
can be transmitted back across that ocean because the trade ships going back and forth are going to carry that disease with them.
Yeah, the plague one was probably my favorite to be testing as well, and because not only did it impact the cities, but it impacted your units and military, and it was very very cool to engage with. So
I'm just
speaking of military.
okay, but like if it's got a name, does that mean I just assume that's a city? No. What? How do you know if it's a city then? So Guadalajara, okay. Yeah. How do you know? All right, Pip, just here. I'm hopping in Discord. Undefinite and tell me.
What the fuck?
What is this? So
Okay, so you see how like Mexico has like all like the urban districts and has like units in them and you gotta kill all that shit?
Yeah.
Okay, so Guadalajara doesn't have that. Like
This looks like a urban district. Like up here. No?
I don't think so. I might be wrong. It's like again like
I mean, I don't see a
looking at the
health
screen.
bar.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. It might just be like a unit in a fort, which isn't the same as like a fortified urban district. Because you can still build forts.
Okay. But So if I want to take Ciudad in Mexico is just the cap, right? Which is why there's so much stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and it has a star next to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why there's a lot of urban. So most of these situations are not going to have that, right?
Yeah, correct. Like the cap is like it's supposed to feel like a cap. Like it's supposed to be beefier and stronger than everything. Like
how
it's
do you
easier to
know all
capture
this shit? Have you
tempo.
been like rigorously keeping up?
Dude, I've been yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm like genuinely excited.
Fair enough, dude. That's great. Awesome. Glad someone knows because none of us know anything. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go back to the chat.
Terry, how is building up for?
So I have Kumasi in A World of Hurt, I think, here.
Okay, so you're taking down Tim's only friend.
Yes. as a sort of a step along the path to getting closer to the heart of France. So the Stukas are part of my attacks, but I'm actually at the point now where I can have a couple land units that can move in directly.
And so the Stuka
Is he
are
not
better
able
at
to
more
take
of
it or
attacking
something?
ground units, while the
Why
Bomber
didn't
would
the guy
necessarily
take
be the
any
best at
damage for attacking the city?
an actual settlement, but the Stuka clearly can still engage and get that damage in.
What is happening? That has no health.
Looks like they
How
still
come it
have
didn't
a defending
die?
Soldier there holding the line.
Yeah, but he's going to go down next turn, almost certainly. I do also have my small
Oh,
navy
is there, like-
is going to try to at least take out some of Tim's resources along the coast here. And I have a larger army that's also just slowly making their way across the continent to where they can start to inflict some
Looks like you got
pain
a
and suffering on him.
thick forest there with rivers blocking, so it's a
Yeah.
slow movement.
It is, but
to-
hopefully we'll just pop out and surprise him.
Very cool. I love the look of Leon there, that city.
Here's where I have his...
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, this is the distant lands settlement you have closer to
right, that
the
I
front of
earned
this invasion.
as sort of a prize in a previous war. So I'm just taking my units here and sort of moving them through the back lines of his force just to put a little pressure on him, make it so he can't reinforce his front lines. So they're not going to be particularly effective, but maybe I'll be able to distract them a little bit.
A little bit of hit and run warfare there.
Yeah.
So speaking of, how are you feeling over here on the front against Jose?
The pressure is on. We've got one district holding on still in Mexico City, and Guadalajara is pretty close to falling as well. And I think once I've kind of broken through, these other settlements will fall in pretty short order. But
Yeah, that'll be a lot of reinforcements once you take that first one.
yeah, I haven't looked over here in a minute, and this is going particularly well. Let's see what we can do. He's exposed his commander here. I can send an air attack on that.
Yeah, so that's something really cool that planes will be able to do is they can get the attacks from just little slip-ups like that. Yeah, and that'll bring
that
down
was
the
a mistake
commander.
on my part, for sure. I didn't realize he had quite that many fighters. He had mentioned he was building fighters, but I hadn't
He's
seen
been
evidence of them.
really building fighters.
Yeah.
So again, that's it seems like you might
What is this? 131 happiness?
want to get some of those trench what are they, the trench fighters, because that is a lot of units coming in. But you got a pretty strong city there, Leon. There's a choke point by the city center there because of the Grand Canyon that is spawned right next to you. So it might be tough.
Yeah,
to
those
have
are
land
diplo
units push
points.
up
They
through
were
that.
talking about that earlier.
And there's the Imperial Guard earning their name.
Kumasi has been captured.
Oh,
I've actually
Kumasi's
earned
fallen.
some points on the ideology path. I'm still not as far along as Tim is, but I'm only 2 points behind. So I'm at least a player in the military victory arena.
So, and that should have given you a great work with Frederick's
It does. So I am playing with Frederick has two personas. The persona I'm playing is the Baroque persona, and he gains a great work when I capture a settlement for the first time, and gain an infantry unit when I construct a culture building. I'm not constructing many culture buildings right now, but let's look
That's
at
kinda
the work
cool.
screen, and we can see that we have received an ancient sword that
Oh,
we
very
somehow
cool.
pulled out of
Settler
the, archives of
deliberately
Kumasi, and we're taking
detected.
that back home too.
Very cool.
Because Frederick appreciates great elements of culture like that, and so if he's going to find them in the city, he'll take them back home with him.
Yeah, actually,
Very
in
cool.
1 week.
And I found out while playing this, you also can, if you exchange settlements in a peace deal, that'll still
I'll
also
stream
trigger.
it.
So I was at war, and me and the person I was at war with, we asked for peace, and we swapped two little town settlements, and I managed to get an extra relic from that. So that's very cool. So it looks like the main city of Mexico is about to fall. So coming up in this next turn, hopefully you'll be able to grab that.
Yeah, and I was just realizing that, I was mentioning the French Empire invading distant lands, but the French Empire did invade Mexico. that did actually happen.
That did. That did.
So this is history playing out here.
I'm not sure if it was
all
with
history.
tanks and
Yeah, not so much.
Imperial Guard, but Yeah, very cool. And so we're talking about the Imperial Guard. They're being used on the offense over here, but at home they're going to see a lot of use with that ranged attack they have that you were mentioning, where they'll be able to sit in the city and be defensive, but also have a really high defense strength from when they're attacked and can shoot out of it, which is very cool. So we got a whole bunch of combat going on here. So how about we zoom in to get some cool
I will
close-up
say
action?
the fact that the combat sort of persists after you've attacked is just it's very cinematic. It's just a beautiful game to look at. We have conquered Mexico City, has fallen. If we look at our progress, that brought us all the way up to the first milestone very rapidly.
And that is a lot of units that you just freed up to go help out with the rest of the front.
That was definitely the hardest part of this here. That was a difficult terrain to work in. But
still a race against the clock, though. You need to hold on to Paris. You got a couple cities you can lose at home, but as long as you hold on to Paris for a while, you'll be able to sneak in with an explosive victory. So it looks like Ed's moving some stuff around.
An explosive victory!
I might take some naval forces over to the other continent and at least see if they can slow down the demise of Jose Rizal's empire. So
Yeah,
I had quite a big war chest.
I'm totally down for that.
I spent a few. I have some island cities sort of over in that direction, so I spent some money on some battleships that way. But I think the main event is what can I do, especially with my Stukas now that Kumasi's fallen, to have them redeployed against the French troops here. So let's
Dude, Ed sounds nervous. It's so cute.
French units.
And these are your unique Stuka here? Very cool.
You can I can hear them in Tim's game making attacks.
I saw one just get shot down.
But yes, he's got enough fighters that they're not, one came back damaged, I think one got shot down. So
and it looks like you got a bonus of culture there when you took out one of those units. It was 17 culture.
Yeah, I think that was my culture, actually.
Yeah, I think Tim got that.
Yeah, for the Napoleon bonus.
Very cool. All right, we're going to take another question. This is by Lots of Pyro. Are there natural disasters, like in the Gathering Storm expansion from Civ 6?
There absolutely are. We haven't seen one in our game here yet, but the same floods, storms, volcanic eruptions are definitely there. The plague system that we were just talking about 15 minutes ago that runs through the same set of disaster mechanics and logic as some of the other ones. So.
Now, I think you actually do have a notification. Is that a disaster notification?
Actually, it's true that there is a river that has flooded.
The other guy's got like fucking 400 happy or something. It's crazy.
Ask me that question because I might not have noticed that.
I believe it was Lots of Pyro, which is very fitting because the city is burning.
Yeah, so I will actually, the good thing is it's not usually too expensive to repair things. So
260.
You're making a lot of gold from
but that
all
was
the
like the
resources you
stock
have.
exchange and some other important buildings that went out when that river flooded. So.
Very fun. All right, and this one is by Thigru. When transitioning from antiquity to exploration in multiplayer, will the new world be populated by players, by AI? How does that work out?
So we always set up the game so that the new world is populated, even in antiquity, when you can't see it. The distant lands is what we call it. And so you start the exploration age game, they're probably, in the default setting where you've got maybe 4 people in the homeland, you'll have 2 AI opponents over there who've set up probably pretty decent strength empires over there. But there'll be land to settle in as well, so it is a little bit reminiscent of the Terra maps that we've had of old. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun to see what your opportunities are over there in the distant lands.
I remember when we were testing that old Terra map, and the first time we tested it, we were super excited to get over and try out to see the distant lands, but there was always one player who would just, instead of picking a naval civ, would lock in like Rome and just try and take over the home continent, which was always very funny. So that was usually Carl, but...
Damn you, Carl.
Carl.
So, it looks like we are now seeing the first engagements on
All right, so it's
homelands.
at 28.
Yeah, the outskirts of Lyon are facing a Prussian.
Let's zoom
So
in
it
and
lost
see
7
the continuous combat here.
Yeah,
And
we've got it back and forth between my rifle infantry. Seem to have a machine gun in the middle of their midst, and they're trying to take down this artillery
Definitely will
piece.
be able to turn off.
yeah, and reminder that continuous combat is
Also,
how
I think
you can
they've said
see how
this
flanking
in
works as
other
well,
games,
because when
but I'm
you pick
pretty
that
sure it's
engagement
only supposed to be
direction,
for
that will
5
be where that
people.
unit is locked down in
Have you heard
engagement,
that
and so then
too?
the furthest flanking side you attack from will have stronger bonuses. So not only is it a very cool aesthetic choice where we can watch the battles play out in real time, but we can see that cool flank of like the gameplay effects of flanking. And there is a massive naval ship sailing from your lake out of a navigable river. Probably my favorite addition to the game. So yeah, how are you feeling about your chances right now, Ed? Since now that you're engaged on the homeland, but...
I do feel like I have Tim on the run here, and that he definitely is not going to threaten my cities in any kind of fashion. It's all just a matter of the clock here. So I am 73 Railroad Tycoon points shy right now, so it's about 5 turns. So we're getting there. But You know, Ken Jose.
I really have. I think they started on turn 72.
Well, I just heard that.
So that's
the
been
polls have
5
flipped
turns.
again, where it is. I think it was 53 for Tim and 47 for Ed. But that was about 40 minutes ago, so we'll get an update on that coming shortly. Now, Tim, how do you feel about your chances right now? You just scored a major victory. It's all right if you lose a couple settlements, just as long as you hold on to the 1 or 2 that'll be able to run that project. So you still got a fighting chance, but it's gonna be a fight.
Yeah, I can't disagree with Ed's assessment here that this is. It's going to be just trying to race to a victory here.
We can go show
yeah, Roblox is on a threat. I agree.
Which one is it telling you? There are choices.
That's true.
Oh,
they all feel like, oh, I got my dog fighting accommodation.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So, but we're looking pretty. The military victory can flip very quickly if I manage to get.
I'm honestly having
into
trouble.
A good situation.
Like distinguishing between them two.
You make very rapid progress in a short period of time.
Look at all that XP.
So because
Very
there's
cool.
a unit in a fort,
Let's see some of this.
that means
siege.
there's.
Yeah,
so that was a district.
Units into here. Some of you may not survive, but I'm okay with that. Because the commanders have the experience, some of these units are a little bit more disposable.
Did they describe what a commander was specifically?
Now let's go ahead and take another look at the home front. The invasion going. It's pushing into the cities now. It's absolute chaos on all sides. A true
Lyon
world war.
has 2 defensible districts, so we have to take both of those out in order to take it. I'm still just on the outskirts of the city, but I was able to take out his field artillery that I had been fighting with there and advance forward. I don't have a ton of artillery on my own, so the defensible districts could be a problem. I'm going to have to probably purchasing some Stukas and putting, or actually some bombers, and putting them in my squadron commander, so I have a better chance of taking down siege defenses is what I need to be focusing on here.
Yeah, well, you're going to need to move quick. I just completed the 2nd milestone here. Managed to capture another
So,
settlement.
but the commander itself is not a unit?
I'm only just shy of, I'm going to need 2 more to get into nuke territory here.
2 more settlements.
Commander is a tier 2 perk that gives AoE.
And just
what
for
the
everyone that we will be
fuck?
over the roadmap
That just
for
sounds
what,
insane.
Players can expect after the game releases on February 11th. So stay tuned for later
So it's
when we get into that.
so it's
once
like
we
a
finish up the
mace
game.
general.
Now, for those who are just now tuning in, welcome to our live stream. We have a multiplayer game going on where it is Tim and Ed playing head-to-head. Ed is currently Frederick of Prussia and is trying to get the economic victory and is pushing his advantage against Napoleon of France, who is being played by Tim, who's trying to get his military victory. It is a race against time for Tim right now, and it looks like you are selecting to make a lot of units in that production queue.
It's all units at this point. We don't really care about buildings right now. Get a little bit of extra production in Paris when we do actually unlock them. Oh, that's a lot of units there as well. Oh, and he's taken out my rail station. Yeah, so if you pillage the rail network, that can really hobble my ability to maneuver.
Yeah, taking that rail station's a big one. So that'll disconnect that settlement from the rail network.
Right, so this Guard Imperial unit has been sort of
how
isolated
do we know
and surrounded.
it's a
so it's looking grim for them. But hold on, hold the line. Guard Imperial.
Now, he'd still have to push through Nancy's right there, and there is at Lyon, there's a major choke point with the Grand Canyon that I think will be, I think that'll prove defense, but
I understand why it's
is
important.
less about if he's going to be able to take you out, more of the race against that economic victory.
Absolutely.
So yes, once you finish the legacy path for the economic victory, Ed, for the economic legacy path, you then will unlock that victory. Do you want to go into the details?
Yeah, we
I
talked a little bit
Chuggle,
about
I was thinking the same exact thing.
The Great Banker has to visit the other world capitals and get each of those nations to agree to join in and also participate in the World Bank. Now, the agreeing isn't something that you go to that player and like, if I asked him if he's going to agree, he would never agree. It's just a matter of, in the game, you have to spend gold and influence. And if you have enough of that, if you're really that humongous economic powerhouse, then you can just get them to buy into the World Bank. So basically, it's going to take me, I'm estimating about 6 turns to go around and get it. I might be a little bit, I'm not spending all my gold just in case I get to that point so that I have some gold and some influence to spend there. I might be underestimating what the cost of that is, just because, you know, I have both Xerxes and Napoleon who aren't friendly with me, and it's going to cost me more to get them to buy into the World Bank if they're not friendly. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but I'm hopeful I've got this set up just right.
Yeah, well, so the cost of the sort of capstone victory type actions and projects is reduced the more legacy points you have of that type from previous ages. So this is advanced star, so we're not going to have any advantages or disadvantages, but if previously I had been following a military path and gotten all my military legacy points, I would have a leg up on completing the Manhattan Project and the Operation Ivy Project in Modern. So your progress along the legacy paths in the previous ages will help you win a final victory of a certain type. But you can win any of them, it's just going to be a little bit harder.
And now we have a question coming in from Xtrees. Can certain victory conditions be turned off, like in Civ 6? For example, would you be able to just keep military and economic victory on while turning off a culture victory?
It's a very good question, and we absolutely anticipate, as our game is out there and people are giving feedback on us, we're going to want to be spending time making adjustments to victories, allowing you to mix and match different combinations. I think we're going to be talking a little bit about what a live event is going to be at the end of the stream today, and I think that's a great place for us to try out new types of victories and see whether or not some of them are popular and maybe make those be alternatives. So victories is a huge opportunity for us to keep the game fresh.
A combination of like
new
having
ways.
production and making money and stuff that unlocks a certain victory condition. It seems like you have to do things to unlock the ability to get a victory condition. Let me find it.
To play through the different ages and toggling them on and off, that's probably certainly going to be, or choosing specifically which ones you like. I think that's going to be a part of it. It's not in the game right now, but it's very much in the forefront of what we're thinking about.
Very cool. All right, and next we have from Sullivan Gold, what will be the max multiplayer lobby on release?
So it does depend a little bit. The multiplayer count's a little bit
Right here. Oh. Right here.
lower on Switch, but assuming that you're not talking about Switch, you can play an 8-player multiplayer here in the modern age in the game that Tim and I are showing. Because of the distant land mechanics and the fact that players might want to take that antiquity game and roll it over into exploration, we want everybody to have the chance to have treasure fleets and take advantage of the exploration age mechanics. Right now, it's set up so that if you start a antiquity or an exploration game, the count is set at 5. Well, we know people are going to want to play with even more people than that, so we have work underway already to get it so that we'll be supporting 8 in any configuration pretty soon here.
Very cool. Thank you, thank you. We have another by Wasabi HD. Is there a tech to reveal the whole map?
Yes. The
Yes.
satellite tech will do that.
Let's go ahead and look at that in the tree.
So there's not really a tech to do it, but if you complete that launch satellite project that is part of the scientific legacy path, that will reveal the whole map.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about the other legacy
What a
paths. We're
random
focusing on
question.
economic and victory. So what is that scientific legacy path, and what would that victory be looking like? I know, Ed, you have an edge on science here, although you're focusing on the econ. So what would...
So you'll see on the tree that there are these light bulbs that represent key achievements along the scientific path. Since I have been through flight, I could have done a transoceanic flight. I think I actually have to get that point if I go check my science progress.
We got that one.
I've done that one. But the other items are ones that I haven't quite gotten to. 3 more turns till I get to aerodynamics, then I can break the sound barrier. And then in rocketry, I can launch a satellite. That will finish the legacy path, so it'll make me eligible for the victory, and the victory is the staff space flight. So both of those are on that rocketry tech at the end of the tree.
Very cool. And then for the culture, I know
Wait, was that the
Napoleon
end of the
France
tree?
has
It ends
a
at rocketry?
strong edge in culture. You are focusing on military, but what would that culture victory look like?
Right. If I went down this and I was able to use my explorers to go
That's what I was
out
wondering
and find
too.
artifacts from a different age and then put them into my great work slots in my museums, then I would be able to complete that legacy path. And then the capstone for that is to hold the World's Fair, which is a very expensive wonder that you'll need to build in one of your settlements, and then you will win.
And it looks like you're about to take one of these final settlements
I'm
here.
very close, but don't quite have. I think I'm going to need another turn to take this one, and then I'm going to need to swing down this coast here.
Now, we just got some interesting info on YouTube. It is 53 Tim and
Yeah, but
47
so is
Ed,
rocketry
but then
the
on
last
Twitch,
tech?
It's 72 Ed, and what would that be? 28 Tim.
Well, I think these YouTubers know what's up. So that's
So it's Team YouTube versus Team Twitch right now.
yeah.
And so will this last settlement get your complete the legacy path for you, so you can start working on something
One
next?
short. I'm going to need one more, but I might be able to be sneaky and take out some of these coastal settlements. I bet these are pretty lightly guarded as well. But we'll see. He's got a long road to Paris.
Yes,
I might,
long road,
might have time.
but all roads lead to Paris.
And I was able to use my rail network to very quickly move people from Marseille to Bordeaux over here.
Now I'm
slow down
45
this
points from finishing Railroad Tycoon. And I believe I've got 15 factory points per turn, 3, 9. Oof, I need one more factory good. I need to somehow increase the
Could you-
factory capacity in Hamburg.
Could you buy a Oh, I know a port increases the resource.
Yes, it's a really
slots.
expensive build here, but if I do that, then Hamburg can produce more chocolate a turn,
There we are.
and I can actually give them from these other resources too.
That's pretty cool.
Extra happiness.
Chocolate.
So what is happiness for, Pip? For the
Is
golden
Hamburg
age?
connected to your? Oh, those resources also might not be connected to your internal trade
Yeah,
network.
that's what's
True,
going
true.
on. Okay, it doesn't matter. I should be able to finish that in 3 turns now, and then it's on to the World Bank.
All right, 3 turns, and then onto the World Bank, which I believe you said would also take about 3 turns.
No, it's going to take me, I figure that's going to take me probably 6 turns because I'm
Right,
going
one
to
to
move to a
move,
capital,
one to
one
establish.
to spend the gold.
Yeah.
So I should be 9 turns maybe out.
I don't think you
Do you
can
think you
rush
could
through
finish
an
out this
era.
project in 9 turns?
It's going to be
Everyone
close.
goes to the next era at the
Paris
same
has a lot
time.
of production, but the Manhattan Project is a pretty significant undertaking. So we'll see. It's going to be pretty close. I'm just realizing if I can put enough.
Also, it
pressure
seems like
on
there's like a
Jose after taking
restriction
this up,
on
he
how
might
many
give me
cities
another
you
settlement
can
in
have.
a peace deal, which
I
might
see.
That might be
get
your-
me
yes.
what I need. So we'll see.
How many settlements is he down to?
He's got.
He's still got 5. So yeah,
Yeah.
he easily could decide that that's worth peace for him.
But he's got, I'm at -3 war support with him. And they do consider current war support in peace deals. So he knows that world opinion is on his side pretty heavily here.
Man, look at those attacks. Do you think we'll be able to capture
Oh,
it?
50-50. Oh, get in there. You can do this. Oh, no. You can get, no.
Oh, no, next turn.
These
blew
coin
up.
flips are not going my way. Let's protect my commander
Looking
here.
close. All right, the district defenses are now destroyed, so you should be able to move a unit in there.
Yeah, I need to take this airfield out. Oh, this tank is blocked. Oh, can we, maybe we can carve a path for my armor to cut through here. Maybe.
Now, we're talking about with the home front. Would you be able to utilize someone else's rail network against them, or is a rail network an independent system for, like, is it used independently?
Once
by
you've
each of the
captured cities and the rail stations are intact, and yeah, it can become part. It would have to be part of your empire, though. I
build
can't
your
go
settlement.
on to towns that are
okay.
controlled by another player and try to use their network.
Oh, and there I've managed to capture. So let's see, this is the moment of truth. Will you accept?
Here we are.
Oh, he will. Lisbon, your ally has betrayed you.
Oh man, and that's the ideology legacy path finished. So now you can start working into
And I have
building
that
a
notification on my
big
screen.
bomb.
Napoleon Revolutionary has completed ideology.
I agree, that is a beautiful proposition.
Look at him smiling at you. J-Riz.
Fucking AI.
So now to achieve that victory, you need to work up and just get
Yes.
a couple different projects, and then you can launch the bomb.
Yeah, so we're going to, what are we working on here? An aerodrome, we don't care about that anymore. We are going straight into establishing the Manhattan Project here.
Wonderful. Get that up there.
And
So
we
I
will
won't
get
say
as
how
much
many turns
production
that
as we
is
can.
out loud to keep Ed on his toes.
Yeah, we will let the audience see that we are not too far away from, well, that's step 1
Yep.
of completing it.
Do you have a heavy bomber somewhere?
I do not. I have not. I'm behind technologically, so I won't be able to use my nukes on you until I have a plane capable of carrying them. I don't have sufficient technology to do that. But I will potentially be able to complete the development of the bomb.
And that in itself is winning.
Right, and that in itself can be winning. Even though I don't quite have a delivery mechanism ready to go just yet. These are all things that we're sort of working out.
So it's kind of interesting that, like,
Let's get those
you know,
troubles
Civ
in.
5 goes to like
and how is, your
GDRs and
siege is
I have
XCOM and
Marseille
stealth
as a lot
bombers,
of
and then
perks
this
just from my
just
battleships.
doesn't go as deep.
Lyon, I've been trying to take it out with some of the bombers that I built, but he still
Which
has some
I'm
pesky
all
fighters in that
for.
area, and so
I mean, I
that
think
has
that's the
been going a
worst
little bit
part
less,
about 5.
effectively. And Bordeaux here, where I you know, reached the outskirts, had the train station for a while. I've lost control of the train station. But,
I know,
yeah,
exactly.
so I don't think that one's under much threat right now. It's Lyon and Marseille that I'm threatening to take.
You have a very advanced, a small but powerful navy right there.
Yeah, and they're getting better through some of these promotions I'm getting on that fleet commander. So yeah, Dresden's just been cranking out one naval unit after another to try to exert pressure down this coast here.
Pretty cool. Let's see. All right.
I mean, I
believe
can't
we
really
have some
tell what's
questions
low
we'll be able to check out
HP and
soon.
what's not.
But until then,
Maybe
we
it's just
can
'cause they're all full
remobilizing
health.
those planes, getting them to the front lines. Let's zoom in on some of those battleships just so we can get a cool look at them. Yeah, look at that. Look at the big smokestacks. That's awesome. Was that a little navigable river tile there?
Yeah, it is.
You'd sail into?
Yes, so I can do damage to all sorts of, pretty much reach any tile in Marseille and do damage to it because the navigable river is giving me access. And Tim has no navy that is at least not one that's making an appearance over on this front.
All right, we have a question coming in from Skopkin. Is the
Interesting.
Manhattan Project restricted by in any way by your science and tech tree progress? Can you start it, or can you just start it as soon as you finish the ideology path?
Yeah, you can start it as soon as you finish the ideology path, as I did, but you won't be able to use nukes on other people unless you have
But wait, I'm confused. If you
researched those
Hey,
head bombs.
help me understand. I thought when you build the nuke, you win. Am I crazy? Okay, what do you have to do? That's what I've gathered. Am I like what?
bombers right now.
And which one's the heavy bombers? That's the aero.
Yeah, that's in aerodynamics, which I'm working my way towards. I'm 2 techs away from. I need mobilization, and then I can get aerodynamics.
Yeah. So you can start working on the projects as soon as possible and getting the bombs. It's the delivery mechanism that takes time.
Right.
Yeah, maybe, well, if you weren't at war, then I guess some science buildings would be beneficial.
Right, to help me out here. Absolutely. We'll make you a fort town.
Yeah, so a really cool demonstration of the town system and the specialization of towns. So a fort town will increase its defense and buff the healing of units from inside that town, which is very cool.
On Ed's side, it's just like...
And we're going to hustle as many of these units as we possibly can off of this front, pack them up into my commanders for very convenient movement.
5 over 6 and 7.
Of large numbers of units. And we're going to get them into...
I hope 7
I can here.
So much better
right,
than 5. That way everyone switches over.
This is the first Twitch stream he's been able to get into. What is the absolute craziest thing you can do in this game that you cannot do in Civ 6?
I think the craziest thing that I have seen in any of our playtesting is some of the battles we've had over treasure fleets in the Exploration Age, and that doesn't exist in Civ 6 at all. Especially in multiplayer during the Exploration Age, you think, Exploration Age, people are just like sailing around the world and discovering stuff. But no, it's been knocked down, drag it out, military, and it's cool. I like fighting with tall ships, and we've had big fleets full of treasure swapping hands back and forth during the same turn between different players. So some of those things have been really fun.
I've been a part of some major naval battles going on without swapping around treasure fleets. One of my things that I think is crazy is when I mentioned earlier, being able to select different civilizations.
Honestly, I don't know enough about the game of 6. I just hate the aesthetic so much that I couldn't get into it.
I'm not going to get into too many of the ones I found because I want the community to find them and get to see them for themselves. But there are some really awesome combos to engage with.
Yeah, there was a multiplayer game we were having just kind of for fun where we...
I think one of the biggest things, this is going to sound really dumb, but one of the biggest things for me was the map, how it turned so gray. Oh my God!
Just decided
it was just such a big pet peeve of mine. I couldn't focus.
And we had Harriet Tubman America versus Lafayette America versus Ben Franklin America. And what was really interesting about it is that even though we were all America, each of us got different precursor civilizations generated. And just because of those subtle differences, the traditions that we inherited, we had 3 very different flavors of America, actually. We had a much more economically focused America. We ended up with a slightly more scientific America and a slightly more diplomatic America. And they actually felt distinct, even though in a multiplayer setting we were playing what is ostensibly a mirror match. So with in terms of civs. So that's a really cool new thing. And that was definitely a sort of aha moment when that happened.
When the vision comes to...
Like Tyrant, exactly. Just absolutely the worst thing about it. It made me, I don't know. I couldn't really, I don't know. I just didn't have the eye for it. Honestly, going back to it at some point was, I tried it originally, didn't like it. This is when I wasn't even playing 5 yet. At least to the extent I am now. And I went back a year ago just to play a single game. Could I beat this game on deity without knowing anything? The answer is yes. It wasn't even hard. But I appreciated the art a little more than I did previously, but I still didn't like it. I'm sure it's you gotta play it, but I don't know, man. I'm usually pretty good about switching to. This does not look exactly like it did at 6 at all, Ashwin. You are crazy. Black Mountain, you're 100% right. Okay. Ashwin, you're just wrong.
Hey.
You're saying this looks like this. This kind of relates to the Age of Empires AoE 2, specifically Definitive Edition. It's just the OG one, and no matter how many new games they release, people ship back to 2. I don't know if it's graphics, mechanics, or whatever you try to get back to. You love it? Yeah. Civ 6 menu theme's great. The announcer is great. There is no fog of war in this video. This is fog, dude. This is fog. This is literally fog. What are you talking about? That's like this. Dude, you're so crazy. I mean, even like the tiles are completely different. That like everything looks animated and like, you know, like there's not an aspect of realism there. It's intentionally cartoony. It just looks terrible. At least to me. I just think it just doesn't look good. You compare that to this? This looks so good.
Together. Yeah, it's very cool.
Leon, it's looking a little grim over here.
I've been doing some work near the Grand Canyon there.
Yeah.
And
if you get a couple more,
we may want to.
Leon 154. They'll probably come up
the
again.
Railroad Tycoon,
I don't know.
The
He
trains
just
are
took a
chugging home
city,
to the
so
stations in Berlin.
I just got that notification in my game, so.
And
now we have him.
it does not look weird
So
at
there
all.
is
Like it
a
looks
great
super
banker
normal.
in
Marvelous.
Berlin.
So where are you sending him first?
He can travel to cities.
The great
And after he's
banker.
traveled there, then he can do his job to establish the World Bank. So he actually has movement this turn, right after I've done that. So you notice that all the capitals are lit up. Let's see where Jose Rizal's capital in exile is and send him over there. And so that consumes his movement for the turn. And then next turn, he should get a new unit action to establish the World Bank there.
Now, do you just need to be in any tile on the capital or the city center?
I'm hoping that any tile is okay. Otherwise, I made a placement mistake. And, we'll see if that comes back.
Are you
to
also researching the last tech, which is pretty nice.
So
Yeah,
rocketry.
I
is
have
the
started on
last tech.
rocketry as well.
Interesting.
I would have to go back if I wanted to try to pursue the scientific victory and go and finish up this project. But that is one cool thing. Sometimes you might want to pursue 2 victories. And then it's just whichever final victory, culmination, capstone moment you can get to first. I've had that situation in several of my games I've been playing where I finished 2 legacy paths. I'm like, well, what's going to be faster, Great Banker or launching a rocket?
also tilted
and,
way
you
too
get there and
horizontal.
you do the math and figure it out. And sometimes it's not even the
What do
one.
you mean by that? Oh, like it's less top down? I see what you mean.
You expect.
Yeah.
So it can be useful to pursue more than one for sure.
And especially when you're in previous ages, because if you're in exploration and antiquity and you plan on playing that full game, you want to. I really
Plus
promote the idea of going
53
and getting
science.
as many of the
What
legacy
the-
paths as you can, because you'll get bonuses into the next age. However, once you do get into modern, then yes, you get the sudden death victories, where it's important to focus on making sure you can achieve something there. So. And so now that we are approaching the victories, why don't we talk about how the nukes can be used? Are there different types of nukes? How do we do that delivery process? Let's go into the details there.
Right, and hopefully we'll get to there. So once I have the Manhattan Project, I will unlock a project in the city's called Build a Nuclear Weapon. I need an aerodrome with a heavy bomber in it, and once I complete that project, it'll load the bomb into the heavy bomber, and on the aerodrome commander, you'll see this button here where it says WMD strike, and I currently have no available warhead. But once I have a warhead in my Empire, I'll be able to click on that and try to strike a tile. His fighters will be able to intercept it, so I do need to account for that. But I can use a nuke anywhere I want. I can
Dude,
try to
fighters
nuke
can
these forces
intercept
up here.
nukes?
It'll irradiate the tiles around it, and
So you can
do
set up
heavy
a
damage.
blocker with the radiation.
Right. So that's one way to use the nuclear weapons. And then the other part of it is that once I complete the Manhattan Project, I'll have a second project available, which will be called Operation Ivy. And completing that will just instantly win me the game. So that will be, I've created, I clearly have a nuclear superiority at that point that I've demonstrated. You sort of do a test, a nuclear test that sort of proves to the world that it's a bad idea to mess with you from this point out. And that is sort of how this military victory will come to a close.
Since you finished out your turn, let's zoom in on the Manhattan Project Wonder so we can go ahead and see.
Right.
Civ is complicated. It was easier for me to get into C++ and master it than getting good at Civ 5 without too many coaching sessions from my friends. I would never have learned decently on my own. Now, that is a good problem for the franchise to get new players and maintain sales. Don't you agree? Yeah. I mean, I think the problem with that's the problem with all strategy games in general, dude. Like all strategy games are super overwhelming. Like try to learn Hearts of Iron or like, I don't know. Like even like if I tried learning AoE, right? Like it's gonna be huge for like trying to get into the game. Like it's gonna be super, super difficult. Higher skill cap isn't. Well, that's the difference is, dude. Okay, it's so funny you mentioned this. It's so funny you mentioned this because I was just comparing that Civ 5 Lek is like the same as Smash. Because not from a casual sense, Ashwin. A casual player can play Kirby, suck people up, and then drop them off the map, and they're gonna have a great time. And then they're gonna think Bowser's overpowered because if you hold down B, then you start shooting fire. Like, that's broken. Oh, and then Donkey Kong can charge his little fist and like pop him. Like, that's really cool. But Smash, and much like Civ 5 in Lek, there's such a strong barrier to entry to even think about playing the game. You need to have worker micro down. You need to have city micro down. If you don't do those things, you literally can't play the game on like a multiplayer level. You will just get fucked. And that's not even talking about like the war aspect, which is like even bigger of a barrier to entry. So maybe not. It is very similar, but Smash is different because Smash, you can play the game with friends and not be overwhelmed by all the options because you don't even know they exist, right? Unlike Hearts of Iron or EU4 or Civ or any game like this, you look on the screen, we know what we're looking at. I can look at this and be like, okay, like I can kind of piece together everything. I can kind of understand what's going on, right? If I'm a new player, let's say I get like Jess in here, right? And I'm like, Jess, like, tell me what this shit means. She's gonna have no idea. I mean, yeah, and that's a common thing for like League of Legends too. League of Legends is super hard to get into because there's like 130 or 40 champions or something like that. You don't know. Most people don't know what half of them do. They're all really hard to get into. That's why I think my YouTube series was so popular, because I made it easy and I made it more, the barrier to entry was like a lot less steep. Yeah, exactly. All strat games are complicated, but I've been playing them since 2003. The AoE Earth Empire. That's why they're solely focused on making visual appealing balance, keeping relevant to precious versions, and keeping these Civ players. See, like, that's the thing, though. I think the casual player is always going to buy the next Civ game, just like the casual AoE player is going to buy the next AoE game. But it's like the truly like degenerate and like committed player base that are like a certain part of the game. Like, I remember when I was making this video for the first time, when we were going over like the first glance at Civ 7. The one thing I hated is that they're removing workers, because worker micro is such a fundamental thing that adds a lot of depth to the game and a lot of skill expression. And like, I can see certain people's worker micros and know who they are based on what they're doing or their lack of, or something like that. Right? That's like such a cool dynamic to have, and removing that, I think, is like not good. So but that being said, by them doing that, it makes it more of like a focus on like the poker and the bluffing aspects and the game theory aspect of Civ, which personally I think gets old really quickly. I started playing NQ 5 years ago, and the skill gap from now is way different. There were like 15 good players back then that played often, and some teamer players. Yeah, I mean, I think the average Civ 5 player in an NQ lobby is like substantially better than they were at any other point. I think a good example of this is Arvius. Arvius like plays NQ a lot. He wins a good bit, but he's, at least in the last like couple years, like he started losing a lot to just kind of random people that have like watched my videos or whatever. And I feel like he's a perfect example of someone who doesn't play enough to like be getting better, if that makes sense. Like he's like obviously cemented himself as a really strong player, and obviously cemented himself as like a very top elite like war player, but he hasn't improved in his sim or anything like that, and it's showing because people are catching up to him a lot quicker. Whereas before, if you watch like Arbius, like he'd do anything and he'd shit on the entire lobby. So it's just a different dynamic.
It's building out over here. We're getting there. It's in progress. I've got. Well, don't tell Ed how many turns we have left here, but let's visually see how many turns.
I don't know if I agree with you, but when you say that's because many games are just terrible explaining mechanics. I think the problem is like there's no good way to explain everything and have people retain it all. Right? It's always going to take a while. Like, dude, I remember someone bought me EU4. I never got into it. I kind of wish I did because it seems like a cool game, but I never got into it for whatever reason. And I just remember like looking at it and I'm like, dude, I'm reading. I feel like, first of all, like when you're a lot younger, I feel like you just kind of skip through the tutorials and stuff, and then you try to figure it out on your own because you're too smart or whatever. Like this was like literally the way I would think for years. Obviously it wasn't a good effective strategy at learning the game. And then obviously like, 2 hours later, you're like, what the fuck is going on? But on the same time, like if they just like force feed everything down your throat in terms of, oh, like this is what this does. This is what this does. This is what this does. Oh, you have to watch out for this. You have to watch it. Like you can't do that. You can't learn a game like that. Like you can't remember everything. I think the right way to do it would be like you slowly like have like a tutorial that's like segmented into like different parts where you're adding different features that become apparent. Like for instance, like let's say it's Civ. Like the first thing is going to be like you don't get to pick your citizens. You don't get to pick your worker micro. You just say pick a city. What do you want to do? Move your units around. Oh, here's a ruin. Ooh, look at that. Like, ooh, let's build a settler. Ooh, press B, right? And then the next one, you're like, okay, like, now let's bring in, like, the worker. Build a worker. Oh, yes, you can control where it goes. Doing this. Like, oh, yes, wow, that's amazing. Like, oh, okay, like the next segment. Oh, like, here's the city. Like, you can set it to production focus. Like, stuff like that. Like, I think that's the better way to teach and better way to do tutorials, but most people don't do that. So I don't know. I feel like it's hard to like judge a game for doing that. I haven't seen a good game that does it. I haven't seen a game that does it well. Games like this are a bunch of systems interlocked with each other, mostly kind of unintuitive. Exactly. Chungle, you're exactly right. You can't learn. I can't learn about worker micro without learning what a tile is. And I can't learn what a tile is without spending at least a little bit of time. Just because a tutorial shouldn't teach you everything instantly, it shouldn't be logical and touch on deeper mechanics. Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like the common system for tutorials now is just like, here's everything. Go have fun. Watch it again 20 times. You know what I mean? Really, all games should start by creating some conservative laws, then defining the symmetry groups, acting on them. Then the choice of game actions is a subgroup of the symmetry group. I mean, that's kind of like what I just said, right? Where you're like starting with some sort of like system or some sort of like group, and then you're building on it with things that align with it. Also, I lied. I'm way older than I thought. I started 9 years ago. Holy. Yeah, I started 5 years ago. COVID. Yeah, Ashwin, you started a little after me. I think mine was actually like
I did peak once, but I'm not going to look for updates. So
You got to do that.
it's nip and tuck for sure.
Yeah. Get a box or a blanket.
I think the fact that your Air Force is under tech is going to be my saving
Yeah,
grace.
that is definitely my Achilles heel. We'll see what we can do. Maybe can we do anything to speed this up even? Not really. That'll help. Every little bit counts.
I've been trying to pillage some of your infrastructure as I get to your cities.
Yeah,
well.
I
take down some of your
just
science buildings.
reached. Oh, we ended on
it looks like we had the score victory on.
Oh,
so
we had the
it'll
score
bring
victory
the
on.
age to a close as we have reached
So
100.
Yeah, we weren't
close.
paying attention to
The age progress. We're so focused on the victories.
So that brings up a good point. There is another victory condition, which is the score victory.
It has to be there in case you ever get to the situation where you're in a stalemate position.
Yes.
And nobody is able to win.
Yes,
Right.
so
And
this will be
the
when
score victory in Civilization 7 is a little bit different than how score victories have worked in the past. It's the accumulated number of legacy points you've had across the whole.
And so Napoleon takes the win because Napoleon has gotten the most amount of legacy points.
Wait, there's no way that this is how the video ends. Pip, are you here? This is the end that you promised me?
Across the game.
Let's see. I think it's my cultural. Yes, my
Yeah.
cultural.
Two rounds in particular, so it's supposed to be progress through many different eras. These eras are supposed to feel different, so you have to have insane amounts of stuff. Yeah. Let me give you the most important point in marketing. The devs care about money. People playing Civ 5 is not the same as paying dev salaries. So I could see this as Area 4 will be sold and then forgotten while Maniacs still go to Fact 5 friends. Yeah. I mean, this is like this is just like a fact of how it goes. But this is also why I want Civ 7 to be great and why I want like it to be so good and so moddable that it, the whole 5-player base leaves and goes to 7. Because I first of all, I want to be playing the latest game. Like I not even from like a content creation standpoint, but like just from like in general, like I want to have a larger player base than the same. I don't even know how many people we're up to now. It's a lot, but we have to understand 5 as something that will never happen again. Major game studios will never give us the source code and modding tools for a game like this. They won't even do it with fucking 6, and 6 is already dead, and 6 came with an active modding community from 5. I thought 6 was moddable. Not to level 5. Well, that's sad.
Points, just barely.
So let's bring up this screen here that shows those points.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Saved by the Bell.
Oh, so narrowly.
So who was it? YouTube that was Team Tim, or was it Twitch that was Team Tim?
So because of the age progress meter, you won. I think the next thing that would have triggered was I should have been 5 turns away from winning with a great banker.
Oh, man.
Yes.
And then I'm not sure how many turns you were out from getting a heavy bomber, but probably
Yeah, it
about
was
10 turns.
probably, yeah, because I would need to do the, yeah, it was probably, well, around quick speed, so it might have only been like 5 turns.
Okay.
It was very, very close.
So, all right. Well, Tim gets it. I'll congratulate him here.
Unexpected end there.
Well, like we said, we hadn't played this out before,
Yeah,
so
that is true.
We knew all about what was going on with the Legacy Pass, but we ended up not focusing as hard as what the age progress meter was doing.
And that is potentially a valid strategy in a multiplayer game too, to push the age progress as fast as you can in order, if you see somebody who's just about to win one of the sudden death victories, if you have a point advantage and because you've spread yourself out across a bunch of different victories, that can be a very valid approach.
I wasn't looking at the math,
Yeah,
but
it's way
obviously
bigger
I
than
hit
5.
that
It's not
final
even close.
Railroad Tycoon milestone, you hit the final
And that pushed us.
military victory milestone. All those things were pushing the progress
And
up.
this goes to a point where if we were talking about not looking at the science.
I don't
issues,
think
not
that's true, Frank. I think most Civ 6 players are playing it because they they're just going to play the newest game. Obviously some are going to stay, but most of them are going to leave. Solution will be modified or reworked 5, fixing issues and then building on base community fraternity DLC while it's releasing aid and so on. Yeah, dude, that makes sense that DLC would break mods.
those projects because you're fully focused on the econ, but now we can see that going in and pursuing the other victories can help in situations.
And if
like
people feel like, well, we don't want score victory to be beyond, we really want it to be a sudden death victory, we showed the settings at the very beginning of the stream where you can go with the long age. The long age is it pushes the number of points you need to finish an age way back, and so that gives you plenty of space for the sudden death victories to kick in.
And conversely, the abbreviated ages is going the other way, and when we've played with those in multiplayer, that almost always ends in a score victory, and so you can sort of skew your preferred way to play.
And this is something that as we get more data in, as we get feedback from the community, we'll be tuning all these numbers. It could be that it might be good to have a little bit more leeway before age progress, or maybe only in modern age. Is that the case? So we'll be paying a lot of attention, which I think is a good segue,
Yes,
Sean.
perfect. I was about to pick up on that one. So great game, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about what players can be expecting past the release of the game on February 11th and what that future roadmap has in store for us. So Ed, if you would like to take it away.
So this is our detailed roadmap graphic. You will see this both here on the stream right now, but it is also being posted online with the new dev diary that's coming out, which is talking about victories, like we've talked about a lot today. But if you can't remember all these details and you want to see it in print, that's right there on the victories dev diary. And one of the key things about the roadmap
that
is
they're already
it is
planning
composed,
like DLCs.
as you go through month by month, like this is broken up from left to right. You'll see on the top half of the screen things that you get if you have one of the content collections coming to you because you've ordered either the deluxe edition or the founders edition, or you go out and at some point in time decide to buy those separately. But we also have very, very important free updates to anyone who owns the game at whatever level they've purchased it. Tim is leading up the charge on those updates, so he can talk about them a little bit. But so let's look first at that early March block and talk about what's coming with the Crossroads of the World pack. Now, the Crossroads of the World pack is broken into 2 releases, an early March release and a late March release. That's not a pattern that people can, should lock in on. Some of our collections will be broken up into 3, 4 releases, those types of things. So it's not always going to be 2, but that's just how Crossroads of the World works. And in that first release, we have some exciting new civs. We have some B-roll that we can show in terms of what those civs look like, and we have a cool leader. And because these civs and leaders, I think we're seeing the Carthage.
Right here.
So actually, before I say anything more, I'm going to let Tim talk a little bit about what's cool about Carthage.
Yeah, I mean, Carthage is definitely becoming one of my favorite Antiquity civs to play. It's a very unique experience. If you were a fan of Venice in Civ 5 and that gameplay, this is sort of a spiritual successor in a lot of ways. And I think people are really going to enjoy playing them.
And so that's an important point to make, is these DLC civs were done after we had the base game pretty well figured out and settled in. It's always easier, we've proven this time and time again on Civ 5 and Civ 6, and it's certainly proving true again on Civ 7, that once you really understand the game and
I don't think that
getting ahead in the game or succeed,
okay, I feel like
if
if you watch my videos, I've kind of proven that it doesn't take half a day to finish a Civ 5 game.
But there are other examples
Like I could start a Civ 5 game now at 8 p.m. and go to bed at midnight.
Sometimes
No
people are sad
problem.
that civs get held out until DLC, but sometimes they end up being much more interesting and cooler. So I'm really excited that Great Britain is in this pack. I know there's been a lot of consternation out in the community as to how could they not have Great Britain in the base game? And Great Britain is probably one of the most near and dear to my heart civilizations. It's the country that I visited more than any other foreign country. I've actually already been to Great Britain in 2025. So I'm not going to let Great Britain fall by the wayside. There's going to be plenty of English, British, whatever content from the British Isles before Civ 7 is said and done. And it's cool because we actually had a little bit of trouble with England in Civ 6. We had to redesign them a few times. This time we've had the chance to sit back, see what the base game looks like, then design Britain. So I'm really excited by the British design.
Like it's so sick. Everything looks so good.
With that, we'll have a video that we'll be able to play for y'all right now.
To use and apply the language of science, we must fully appreciate, feel, seize the unseen.
So Ada Lovelace is our new scientific leader. So
That's what they look like.
Leaders who are great in diplomacy, like Machiavelli. We have leaders who are great in culture. I think Catherine the Great is one of our examples of that this time. But Ada Lovelace is one of our premier science civs. And she's sort of taken the science gameplay in a brand new direction. She reminds me of Young Lee from the Leader Pass from Civ 6, where there's like a system that you don't usually engage with in a deep fashion. And all of a sudden, the leader comes along who's really good at that system. And all of a sudden, that's how you play the game, and it feels like a very fresh, unique experience. So we won't tell you exactly how Ada works right now, but we've had a ton of fun playing with her and trying her out recently. Now, a couple more details here on what you're seeing on the roadmap. One is there's been some question about, well, these new civs that are coming in the collections, do they get their own associated wonders, or are they sort of supposed to use the 4 wonders that are part of the pack as theirs? And they absolutely do get their own associated wonders that aren't listed as part of the content. That's just part of the civilization package that you get these days. So the other thing we wanted to focus on is what's going on sort of on the bottom half of this roadmap slide with the free content updates. And you'll notice that we have some things labeled as major updates and some things as regular updates. That really just has to do with whether it's the first update in the collection, which we're going to have a little bit more fanfare around. But we're not necessarily assuming that one update is going to have more fixes than the other updates. We're just going to be fixing as much stuff as fast as we possibly can and patching things up and balancing things. Tim's doing a great job leading the charge there. So I'm going to let him talk a little bit about how these events work and how things in the events might see their way into the game later.
Right, so the first event was this Natural Wonder Battle, which the events are a lot like if you've been playing the events that are ongoing in Civ 6 right now that just sort of wrapped up. Those are going to continue into Civilization 7. So those will be sort of limited time events that you can participate in.
Yep,
like this
that's
Natural
exactly
Battle.
right.
And those will not always, but sometimes have content or things about them that get sort of shed into the base game after they're done. So they're both a way for us to try some things out and see how they go, and a way to keep adding free content and updates into the game for everyone. And so as an example here, we're going to be adding these new natural wonders like the Bermuda Triangle for everyone, and having this natural wonder battle event. And then in the Geographic Society of the Modern Age that we just played through, we'll be sort of integrating natural wonder gameplay into that as well. So that's sort of an example of what type of thing you can expect moving forward there.
And I think for the final thing that we want to touch on today is we want to talk about some of the bigger, chunkier updates that we have planned. We don't have an exact timing. We won't see them on the roadmap specifically. But if you go to the dev diary that's been released, there are 4 or 5 items listed there as like our near-term priorities.
Did you get
focus on getting in the game as quickly as we can. Some of them already came up during
they
the
do
discussion
change
here.
with
Team
era.
multiplayer came up in one of the questions. We want to let people know that Hot Seat is something that we're actively looking at how quickly we can get that out to everybody. Naming of settlements is a feature that is important.
Ashwin, I mean, do you want to be playing Civ 5 for the rest of your life? Like, actually. I hear what you're saying. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But I'm just saying, like... What the fuck? That's so specific. This is so specific. You can call me after this. About Civ 7 being expensive. Dude, I don't think it's expensive. I think you guys are crazy if you think this shit's expensive. I remember when I was like a child, a new game was $60 or $50, right? I am calling you broke bitches. Like, we're all old now. Civ 7. How much is it? Not this shit. Come on. The standard edition of Civ 7 pre-order is $70. That's $10 more than a normal game. I understand you need the fucking DLC, but like, guys, like, they are making a game. Like, that costs money. I tried, immediately started to mock you. Damn. It doesn't count. You just said you need the mod. What are you talking about? You need the mod. You need the DLC. Yeah, but like, okay, dude, DLC. How much are the Civ 6 DLCs? Civ 6 DLCs. This one is $9. I might be looking on the wrong stuff. I don't know, man. I can't. There's 18 DLCs. What the fuck? Wait, that's a lot. You have the money, I'm telling you, it's expensive. It's all the mods for $5, like the same price for base game. No, but Ashwin, this is different. Look, I think if we want more Civ games, we should buy the fucking game. Like, am I crazy? Like, I don't think it's like unrealistic. Guys, I have put in, let me find the time. I'm not proud of this. I've put in over 6,000 fucking hours into a game I've paid under $20 for, or under $50 for. 6,000 fucking hours. I just looked at yours, Ashwin. I just looked at yours. No, but I'm just saying, guys, like, I understand, like, it's not good if you don't play it, but the DLCs come out progressively. Well, Apple's, that's not a fair comparison because it's like, I used to make the comparison, but like a movie is an event. You know, like it's an event to do. It's not something you just do. Like they come out progressively, which means if the game sucks, you buy it and you don't like it, you don't have to buy the DLC. That's not like a front loaded, like all the DLCs on release probably are going to cost like what, like $300 total. Okay. So I'm paying $400 for a game. If I play it as much, if I play a fifth as much as I do 5, it's over 1,000 hours. I really don't think it's that bad. Like, I understand the argument where, like, oh, I'm a kid or I'm in college, like, I don't have the money. Like, okay, fine. But most people have fucking jobs. Well, yeah, if you pay $60 for a game, you better... Yeah, no, absolutely. Ashwin, that's fair. That is fair. Like, absolutely. Like, for instance, like how Brave New World fundamentally changed how 5 played. Like, I completely agree. Like, that's really dumb. Because all that means to me is that they just kind of pushed out like a half-baked game. Well, but Black Mountain, that's my point, is that you literally will have. Because you're, in this case, right? In this case, I think these are free. These are literally free. Okay? So there's only one DLC that they have after October. The average price for a PC game on Steam was $15.50. Guys, but this is not an average game though. This is like a AAA studio. You can still play free games like 1,000 hours. Like, dude, like League of Legends is free. Fortnite is free. Like, you can play all of these games for free. But like, these kinds of games are like really expensive to make. So I understand why they're expensive. Like the money thing to me is really silly. Poobam, exactly. Exactly, Pip. Exactly. I mean, the reality is like people don't like want to do it. And look, that's fine. Like everyone's financial situation is different. But like don't tell me that you couldn't afford it if you've had 6 years to save. Exactly. Exactly. They are incapable of being esports. And there's no like skins that they can sell. I had to take a bank loan. Okay. League of Legends is, I mean, yeah. Let's finish this video real quick.
For people to be able to customize their empire, so we want to be able to do that. And we talked a little bit about how you might have some campaigns or some multiplayer campaigns.
Yeah, but you can't monetize strategy games like you can those
right
kinds
now,
of games.
when you start into a game, you pick your starting spot, but it's always going to run through the end of Modern, and we want to make it's so players have more control over that they can have a single age experience that feels like the same with victories like our modern age does now. And then I think, what was the last thing?
More map types and
Yes.
other map improvements and things like that are definitely a thing that we're looking at.
Yeah, so we want to make it so we'll
Look,
take some feedback. We've seen feedback from the community.
I think
already on our map
monetization
types,
and
so
stuff's
we have some
important.
adjustments. Some of the maps are a little blocky in some
I think
configurations.
that,
We can
like,
definitely make improvements there. One thing,
if you
that's
want
sort
a
of a really
good
example
product,
of
you're
what
gonna
we're
have
doing
to
in terms of
spend
listening
money.
to community feedback and trying to get
Typically.
things into the game right away. So a lot of people have been making comments about the minimap and how they feel a little bit discouraged that the minimap is not quite as cool as it's been in previous games where you can see where your territory is. That's a change that we sort of turbocharged in priority. And so I believe that there are some of our streamer friends who are out there who have copies of the game.
No, they're not
going
to cherry rush you. They're going to flame you for feeding bot after your level when you're like level 2.
Yeah, they're all playing a more recent build than the one that you saw here.
Don't even have a finished bot
I
game
believe talking
yet.
about our
You're
streamer
just going to
friends
get
is a perfect
shit flamed
segue
out of
into
you
what we
and
have
you're
next
not
to
going to
talk
want to
about.
play anymore.
So we will be having a Civ World Summit that'll be going on in the next few days, where we're going to have a whole bunch of different streamers coming together and having a head-to-head competitive multiplayer experience. And we have a video to show that off right now.
Motherfucker, where's my invite? Hello? Spiff? Dude, I'm reaching out to Potato. This is fucked. This is a tragedy.
All right. And
I didn't give enough meat bucks to the devs. I guess so.
Thank you very much for joining us. Follow us on our socials for more information, and I am so excited for all of y'all to check out our game on February 11th on all platforms. I have been your host, Sean Wilson. Thank you very much, Ed, for joining us, and congratulations on your victory today, Tim.
Thank you. You did a great job.
So, thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Link to the video here. Anyone wants to watch it. Like Arvius didn't get an invite. Baba didn't get an invite. I mean, like, I'm not like actually upset about it, but it's like I'd be very surprised if they even knew who I was. Actually, no, that's not true. I'd be very surprised if none of them had any idea that I existed. I don't need Ashwin. No. I'm not saying to buy 7. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying don't say that the reason you don't want to buy it is because of the money. If you want to be like, I don't want to buy it because I don't want to buy a game in general, that's totally fair. I can respect that. But don't say it's because, oh, well, it's too expensive for me. All right, we'll watch this one too.
Happen to combat in Civilization, but what do they do and how do they work? In this video, we'll be explaining everything we know about commanders. Let the video commence. Commanders are Civilization 7's newest innovation to combat. After discovering the Discipline Civic, you will gain a free army commander. These military leaders will make it easier to transport your troops into the front lines of battle by assembling nearby units as an army. When your troops are assembled into an army, you'll be able to move all of your units together by just moving your army commander. No more need to move your units one by one into battle. The amount of units that can be assembled is limited, but can be expanded. Additionally, having units assembled will increase the movement of your commander, encouraging you to use them to move efficiently.
That's interesting.
After reaching your destination, you can then disperse your troops around your commander. This will consume your commander and unit's movement, but you'll be able to begin combat on the following turn.
That's
but be
cool.
careful,
I like
because
that a
if your
lot.
commander gets defeated while an army is assembled into it, all of those troops will take damage, and you will have to wait for your commander to respawn before you can use it again. so be sure to have them stacked onto other units for protection. Commanders also have a reinforcement ability, which allows you to summon a unit from anywhere in your empire to the commander.
What
your
the
unit's
fuck?
travel time will automatically be calculated, and they will disappear from the map until they reach the commander. This is yet another way for your commander to make transporting your troops to the front lines of battle easier than ever before. In addition to transporting your troops, commanders also grant bonuses to units in their command radius through promotions. Promotions are exclusive to army commanders, and there are 5 different promotion trees for your commanders to grow into. Bastion, which is focused on providing defense for your troops. An example of this is a Steadfast promotion, which provides +2 combat strength for land units within the command radius when defending. Assault, which is geared towards boosting the combat strength of your units when attacking. An example of this is a Storm promotion, which provides +2 combat strength for ranged units within the command radius when attacking. Logistics, which allows your commander to do different things around the map. Maneuver, which is about moving your commander and troops. An example of this is the Initiative promotion, allowing your units to move and attack immediately after being dispersed from your commander, or another promotion that ignores turn-ending terrain. And Leadership, which focuses on the commander itself and making it the best commander that it can be. An example of this is a promotion Zeal, which provides +5% to all yields in a settlement when your commander is stationed on a district. Commanders also have unique actions for nearby groups of units, allowing you to manage them more efficiently while also providing bonuses for doing so. These actions consume the commanders and any involved units'
is there
movement.
something
Focus
for,
Fire is an example of this, as it orders all ranged units within the command radius to fire on a specified target, and also grants those units +1 combat strength for that attack. And there is also a similar unique action for melee units. These unique actions are yet another way for you to use your units efficiently without having to cycle through them one by one. Certain civilizations also come with unique commanders, such as Rome's Legatus, which can create a new settlement after a certain number of promotions. Persia's Hazarapades, which starts with the Initiative promotion, or Chola's unique naval commander unit, which confirms that there are naval commanders in the Exploration Age, though we don't have any other information about them yet as far as I can tell, but I'll keep you posted on anything new.
Civ 7 flanking.
Civilization 7 is fundamentally changing how combat works, ring-fencing promotions and experience behind the all-new, ultra-powerful commander units, as well as trying to fix some pain continuously fought during a turn. Not dealing extra damage, not like actually fighting over and over and over until one of them dies within a turn, but they maintain that front line as if they are still actively fighting. That's what Civilization 7 introduces, unless, of course, a unit is destroyed. And this directionality of attack matters, because now they're able to simulate flanking. 2 units attacking one another front on. Now you have, within the rest of this turn, an active front line, and therefore flanking becomes not something that needs to be meticulously planned or microed, but something fairly obvious for Civilization. They conclude with a Finding Balance series of 3 small paragraphs, which of course you can read on screen or linked down below as always with the rest of my sources. They talk about broadly how different Civ players have different preferences, different opinions. They're trying to strike a balance between what could make it fun for somebody who wants to just dabble in a few skirmishes as well as go on an all-out, in-depth conflict. And as we talked about at the start of the video, militarism is still important. It still functions toward those ultimate end goals or legacy paths, should you choose to follow them. That is a lot of military changes that we've discussed today, some big ones for Civilization 7. Thank you very much for joining me, not just today, but this year. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you all next year.
I think it's obviously pretty important. Alright, we're just gonna raid this person. I don't know who they are. Hopefully they're not weird. Probably are.
This is the...
That's all I wanted to cover here interesting so far. I think the discussion was good. I'm excited for 7. I'll be playing it. So, anyway. Thanks everyone for watching. See y'all next time.